Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. I'm Pinky Webb. Today on the program, a Senate leader is urging the public to oppose the allocation of confidential and intelligence funds in the 2023 budget. But will there be enough time and support to amend next year's budget? Senate Minority Leader Koko Pimentel tells us more in the program. And later, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris makes a historic visit to the Philippines. What are the implications for Philippine-U.S. relations? International studies expert and Philippine Society for Intelligence and Security Studies President Romel Banlawi joins us later in the program. A Senate leader is urging the public to oppose the millions worth of confidential and intelligence funds allocated in some government offices. For next year's budget, a lawmaker points out that some agencies, including the Education Department, does not have the capacity nor the mandate to conduct surveillance and intelligence gathering. Let's go straight to the source of the story. Senate Minority Leader Koko Pimentel. Senator Pimentel, welcome back to The Source. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Good morning to everyone. Pinky, thank you for inviting me.
Sir, I want to kind of start this by breaking down the confidential funds. So we're looking at 9.3 billion pesos in intelligence funds, which actually form part of the 5.26 trillion peso 2023 budget. The biggest chunk of which goes to the Office of the President at 4.5 billion, equally divided into two. Half of that, 4.5, I believe, goes to Intel, and the other half goes to confidential funds. I want to start with this, sir. What is the difference between intelligence and confidential funds?
Confidential funds are given to civilian agencies for surveillance activities, which will help them pursue their mandate or their function. Intelligence funds are given to law enforcement agencies or armed services because they are involved in national security matters to gather intelligence. So these intelligence funds basically are for intelligence gatherer or practitioners. Confidential funds, ibang purpose po niyan for civilian bodies who need to conduct surveillance.
Okay. So obviously, as it means, confidential funds is used for surveillance and intelligence funds is used for intelligence gathering. But
which could include surveillance.
Exactly, yeah.
Yes,
but,
yes.
But I guess what would be the main difference of both? I guess the confidential funds allows for civil agencies.
Yes, the nature of the recipient, diba? The character of the recipient. So, if you are a civilian agency, you can at most only get confidential funds. If you are a law enforcement agency or an agency involved in national security, you are most likely to get intelligence funds. And then, in the way, the second difference is in the way that these are reported. Okay, mas loose ang intelligence funds, mas lenient ang auditing ng intelligence funds. Although lenient na rin yung confidential funds, mas lenient pa si intelligence funds.
Yeah, but that's what I don't understand. If you tell me that they're more lenient in auditing intelligence and confidential funds, these funds are not something that can be seen by the lawmakers anyways, right? So how would you know that one would be more lenient than the other?
In the reporting, on paper, ganito yan eh. The intelligence funds are placed in a sealed envelope and then kept in a vault. And then this will be made available if the COA chairman visits the office to check on the use of the intelligence funds. The confidential funds are placed in a sealed envelope and then given to the COA. And then accomplishment reports are also given to the Office of the President as well as to the Houses of Congress.
So,
accomplishment report, Pinky, this
Yeah.
is not the liquidation report.
Yeah, so so if you say it's not a liquidation report, then how can they be more lenient? But I want to stick to what you said earlier, sir, so that we all know. You said intelligence funds. Gaya nung sinabi mo in the past, nasa silyadong envelope ito. So totoo po yun. It's in a sealed envelope. And you said it is kept in a vault, yung intel funds. Whose vault?
Of the office given the intelligence fund.
I see. So it could be the Office of the President, for example, that will keep this.
Yes, and then the PNP,
Right,
the
AFP.
Department of National Defense, the military, and
PIDEA.
Philippines Coast Guard, the NICA. Yan sila. These are the agencies na meron. PIDEA, ito na, this is the difference nga. PIDEA is it's a civilian agency. Mga retired police na yan, mga yan most likely, nandyan so it is receiving confidential funds.
Okay. Senator, I was losing some parts of what you were saying. You said something about PIDEA. Could you repeat that, sir, please?
Yeah. The PIDEA is the best example to differentiate between the two funds. Okay. Civilian agency. Civilian yan mga police na yung mga manning PIDEA. So therefore, being a civilian agency, at most it can get only
confidential funds. Right.
And it has confidential funds. And then tama rin because part of PIDEA's mandate or functions would be to raid the secret laboratories and then they need to conduct surveillance.
Absolutely,
so,
to conduct.
Yeah. So, tama.
Nandun po sila,
Eksakto lang.
pasok po sila dun sa conducting of surveillance. Okay, so before we go to the Office of the Vice President, puntahan po natin yung OP. Office of the President, 4.5 billion pesos in intelligence and confidential funds. Yes, dalawa po yan. Do you think this is excessive? Do you have any problems with the CIFs of the Office of the President?
Yes, it is excessive. And then, on the part of the 2.25 billion intelligence funds, ang tanong, is the Office of the President an intelligence gathering agency? Is it an intelligence practitioner? But is it a civilian office? They're civilian nga yan, di ba? Civilian supremacy over the military yan. That's why we have the president. So, civilian office po yan. So, from the first distinction pa lang that we made kanina, wala na dapat intelligence funds ang Office of the President. So, at most, so
confidential.
What? Kung hindi pwede, confidential funds at most.
Okay.
Di ba?
So, if confidential, sir, dapat po kalahati ng 4.5, 2.25. So, if this is, would you say, well, you said it's excessive. I think I heard a part when I asked you, is this excessive? Sabi niyo po, opo.
Yes.
So, if that is clear, yung sinasabi niyo pong mandate, whether you're a civilian agency or otherwise, here's the thing, sir. Only two of you, from what I know, oppose this.
Correct. Only two of us, yes. That's correct.
But I guess my point is, if this is your line of defense, na mali po ito, hindi po siya entitled sa intelligence funds, sir. In the past, for example, I was looking into this during former President Rodrigo Duterte's time. I believe, sir, if my research is correct, in 2021, tumanggap din po siya ng 4.5 billion pesos din po ng confidential and intelligence funds. And in 2020 rather, 4.57, again, sir, please correct me if I'm wrong.
4.57
of confidential and intelligence funds. Is this something that you questioned in the past, sir?
4.5 din siguro. Kasi nag-copy-paste kasi itong Office of the President. They just copied the budget of the past years of the Office of the President.
Okay.
Ito Pinky kasi, Pinky, I'm now the minority leader So this is my job now.
Yeah. So,
Pero upon digging deeper into the subject of confidential and the intelligence funds, we can make this distinction. Tulad ng tinanong mo kanina. So after we have made this distinction, we apply. We apply the principles. We find out that it is wrong to do this because if the office of the president needs intelligence, it can delegate or it should instruct the intelligence gatherer to give it the intelligence that it needs.
hindi po dapat sa OP.
Yes, okay, yun na yung distinction natin kanina. We always go back. What is the nature of a confidential? What is the nature of an intelligence fund? Now that we understand it, na klaro-klaro, and then that's the definition, then let's apply. Let's apply.
And then, let's go next to the confidential funds naman po. Ito naman po, OVP. No intelligence, but there is confidential funds amounting to 500 million pesos. Plus, sir, 150 million also in confidential funds to the DepEd. Is this a first, sir? Doon sa...
Yes. It's a first. It's a first in the sense that for the DepEd, I think this is the first time that the department will be given confidential funds. This may not be the first time for the OVP to be given confidential funds, but it will be the first time in decades. So parang new na rin because the practice has been stopped.
And moving forward, I know that you are entering the period of amendments. And as mentioned a while ago, sir, there's only you and Senator Risa Ontiveros opposing this. Does this still have a fighting chance to be realigned, sir? Because I know that even in your previous interview, you were saying there's so many agencies that need the money. For example, you have even the DICT. You obviously have also the PIDEA. That I think in your interview, sabi mo, yung kanilang CIFs, for example, yung sa Office of the President ay mas mataas pa sa PNP, AFP, and PIDEA combined.
Correct.
Okay.
Tama.
So ano ho ang chance that this can still be realigned or moved during the period of amendments?
Very slim chance. But we will try our best. Pero that's the nature of lawmaking. That's the reason why we are electing 24 senators and then 315 members of the House of Representatives. A collegial body po yan. So we are subject to the rules. So we will try, but we will try our best.
Okay.
Tapos as much as possible, if we are to realign these funds of this nature, which are less transparent, diba? In the nature of a lump sum and then less transparent or very lenient in auditing, ilipat na natin sa item sana, sa item. But of course, you brought up the issue of the DICT, which also needs to conduct surveillance to fight cybercrime, then pwede sigurong applicable na doon yung confidential fund. But siyempre the amount must be reasonable. Diba? And we're cutting an amount. We are proposing to cut an amount greater than the amount we are willing to give the DICT. Therefore, the surplus we put to items. Items na not confidential and the intelligence funds. Yung itemized need of the agencies. Yung agriculture, I'm sure meron dyan. Kahit sa DepEd, meron dyan. Sa classroom building program na lang nila, kulang na yan.
Yeah.
Senior citizens pension, kulang na kulang. Even our the postal system is begging for funds.
Right.
Baka mag-collapse sila. So, yun po yun, marami. And these are items, these are not lump sum.
Yeah. And Senator, yung pong sinasabing Special Oversight Committee, how can that help? And follow-up question, sir, who are the members of this special oversight committee?
The special oversight committee, I think, will be revived by the Senate President with Senate President Subiri as the chairman. And then, of course, the minority will be represented. And then I do not know how many members of the majority. And then the function is it will require and the submission of reports concerning confidential and intelligence funds and receive, hindi lang yung required submission, and then also receive the said reports so that the members of the committee can have access to the reports. Ngayon ang tanong, are these only accomplishment reports or the actual liquidation? Yun yung tanong kasi.
And what is the answer to that?
If we want to be strict, it must be the actual liquidation. If we want to be stricter, it must be the actual liquidation. Tignan na muna natin because even the decision on that matter is subject to the majority rule pa rin.
Yeah. So the minority will obviously be represented. I think, if I'm not mistaken, sir, this will be a 5-man committee. That's what I read somewhere. So,
yes, okay. 4:1. Okay na po na ratio yan. Opo.
okay. But sir, pag na-create na po itong special oversight committee, how does this process begin? Are you given a report quarterly or are you given a report annually?
It's quarterly siguro. Ito yan eh. If you want to be stricter, the periods must be shorter. The reports must be more detailed. Ganun yun eh. Ganun yun. So, i-debate na namin yan sa committee on what we want to do.
Okay.
So, if you make the period shorter, therefore you're stricter because the earlier you can review, you can go over the reports. The earlier you can do this, if you notice something out of order, you can call the attention of the agency concerned, and then sabihin mo na you're using the funds not in the proper way, or your report is not in order, mga ganon, di ba? So kaysa sa annually, wala na, it's too late, tapos na po yung taon.
And very quickly, sir, can this be in terms of its secrecy, pwede ho ba siyang ilabas sa media o sa publiko?
Hindi, wag.
Hindi pwede.
Dapat,
So it's really...
Dapat ganun din. May disiplina din dapat kami na wala ring magli-leak kasi para to also, kasi this is a system also provided by law eh.
Yeah.
If we want to make it looser, we change the law.
Yeah.
Pero now as the law is written, ganun, so we keep the confidentiality of the reports, but then we just want the oversight of Congress to be more effective. Diba? There is now a specific committee where you submit your reports concerning confidential and intelligence funds.
Senator, 2 questions very quickly, sir. You were saying in an earlier interview that the public should oppose these funds. How, sir?
So that we can generate the critical number in Congress and in the Senate. So by pressuring your legislator, gano'n naman po talaga in a real democracy, the constituents pressure their legislators kung ano yung towards the point of view or towards the policy that they want to support. So depende na po yan. If fellow legislators feel the pressure, then they might change their minds, di ba? Pero if there is no pressure, there is total indifference, then we can already see the outcome.
And as a last question, sir, what about possible legislation regarding confidential or intel funds, amendment, review?
Correct.
Is this needed?
Correct. Kung gusto talaga nila na there is confidential funds, nagkaka-issue kasi tayo because of the definition eh. So if they want to loosen the language, we can entertain that, or we can even tighten the language. So gano kasi. But then the instruction or the mandate from the Constitution is that our budget should be as itemized as possible. Ang confidential kasi and intelligence funds are in the nature of a lump sum. So discourage natin yan. If you want to pursue the spirit of the instructions of the Constitution, we discourage lump sum items or entries in the budget.
Senate Minority Leader Koko Pimentel. Sir, thank you so much for your time.
Welcome. Thank you very much also.
And we'll be taking a short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned.